Welcome to Content Marketing Engineered, your source for building trust and generating demand with technical content. Here is your host, Wendy Covey.
Hi, and welcome to Content Marketing Engineered. On each episode, I'll break down an industry trend, challenge, or best practice in reaching technical audiences. You'll meet colleagues, friends, and clients of mine who will stop by to share their stories. And I hope that you leave each episode feeling inspired and ready to take action. Before we jump in, I'd like to give a brief shout out to my agency, TREW Marketing. TREW is a full-service agency located in beautiful Austin, Texas, serving highly technical companies. For more information, visit trewmarketing.com. And now, on with our podcast. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Content Marketing Engineered. I'm joined today with Lee Chapman and Morgan Norris from TREW Marketing, and they're going to tell us all about their wonderful time they just had in San Diego at Content Marketing World. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So you guys are fresh back. You got an escape from what is still hot Texas. What was it like in San Diego? Was the weather just perfect, as I imagine it was?
It was beautiful. It was
gorgeous.
I forget that it's just like 75 all the time. It's so nice. So, and it's, all your venues are out where you can see the sunsets and over the water. It's so pretty.
The palm trees. I did 6 a.m. yoga and had sunrise every morning and a shooting star one morning and Orion's belt and the moon. It was so yes, it was glorious environment.
Wonderful. Now, was the yoga part of the conference?
It was part of it on Tuesday and Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. before the conference. A group of us, there was probably 25 of us on the first day. And then the next day after the party, there were 5. So, well, I know we'll talk about the party a little bit later.
Of course.
It was a great party. Spoiler alert, it was a great party.
Yeah.
There's a running club too that I half intended to go to and didn't. So maybe next year I can report back on that.
There you go. That sounds good. Well, I know leading up to your trip, Lee, you participated in the Content Marketing Institute's mentorship program as a mentor. So tell me, what was that like?
Yeah, so it was pretty great. There were 28 of us total. So I think that's 14 pairs. And it was set up by the Content Marketing Institute, as you said, and paired up by industry. So my mentors actually in B2B marketing, sort of in the industrial manufacturing sector, he worked for Bridgestone, still works for Bridgestone. Name was Colton Warren, and just enjoyed getting to know him probably 6 months before the conference. We started meeting every other week, just talking about marketing challenges. He's probably still early to midway through his career, just moved to a brand new team that had let a lot of other marketing folks go. So wearing a lot of hats, a lot of quick changes to things that you thought you were working on that were going to go a little bit sideways. So we kind of tackled that each week. And I really learned a lot from him too. I have been out of working for a really large company for a long time. And so a lot of the challenges that he was facing in this large organization kind of brought that all back for me. And there's some great things, as we know, about working in a large organization. And then there's some challenges as well. And so really enjoyed getting to know him. And then when we got to Content Marketing World, there were several different events that they had for us. We had a table every day at lunch. We had a dinner one evening. We all met up and went to the after party together. And after it was over, we also went out to dinner that night. So lots of bonding, not just with your individual mentor or mentee, but also with the whole entire mentor-mentee cohort. And so met a lot of people. A couple of them are local, live here in Austin. So some new friends, some new connections. So look forward to keeping up with that.
How neat. It can be challenging, especially if you go to a conference by yourself. And it's so nice to have a micro group within the larger group to just hang out with and get to know. So I love that they did that.
No, I can't say enough great things. So anybody out there listening, if you get the opportunity to participate in this program, I would highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah. Did the formal programming end with Content Marketing World? Like, I know your relationship will continue, but is that kind of like the culmination of it? And then they start with a new round of mentees, do you know?
I think that is the plan. And then Colt and I plan to continue meeting up. And like I said, some of the other folks that I kind of grew close to at the event. So, but yeah, I think they'll set up a whole brand new cohort for next year.
Great. Well, meanwhile, Morgan, leading up to Content Marketing World, was polishing slides and getting ready for your role as the presenter of the Manufacturing Masterclass, which was held, the day before Content Marketing World launched? Is that right?
Yeah, so the day before, you can buy an extra pass to go a day early. And there are 3 different time slots during the day. The first thing is an industry masterclass, which I taught the manufacturing industry masterclass. The second slot is like a technology type of deep dive. And then for the afternoon slot, you pick a 3-hour workshop that you do. And so it's a really focused day. Our session was awesome. It was so fun. So we talked about creating a personal brand and then scaling a kind of personal branding strategy throughout your company as part of your marketing efforts. And so it was really fun. Everybody, 9:30, 9 in the morning, and everybody's there. Everybody had gotten in the day before for that to participate that full day. So everyone was just excited, which made it kind of energetic in the morning. Lots of feedback, lots of questions throughout the process. But what we did was I wanted to teach people about what it looks like to brand your subject matter experts within your organization. And so the way that we did that was we did a little lesson on branding yourself first. Everybody was going to be there for the week. Everybody is an expert in something. And so kind of defining who they are and what their differentiators are, what their kind of voice is to start to put themselves out there, and then learn how to kind of take that back to an SME at your organization, and then what it looks like to have kind of multiple personal brands at different levels throughout your organization as part of your marketing strategy. We had tons of different companies represented there, everything from Caterpillar, which is like brand, large, well-known brand, to the people way back in the supply chain making the metal alloys that people, that companies buy in different kinds of bars that they're then going to turn into different machinery and things. So lots of variety there, which is always good, but just common shared challenges of trying to market to really technical audiences. One thing we did, so I said at the beginning, we had people kind of walk through branding themselves. And I had a group of 3 women up in the front that were all from the same company. It was 2 women on a similar team and then their manager. And so they kind of went through this exercise of branding themselves. And then it's hard to talk about yourself in front of a group of people. And so I had the manager actually kind of like present one of the people that she worked with, and from her perspective, what this woman's personal brand should be. And it was really cool to kind of walk through it that way. So that was kind of framework.
And it was great to see too. Sorry, Wendy, I was going to jump in. It was great. There were a lot of heads nodding when Morgan was bringing up like, how many of like your engineers and subject matter experts are excited about personal branding? People are like, no, we can't get them to do this. We're like, okay, great. And then like Morgan laid down all these great tips, and people were really excited and leaving the room, I think, feeling really empowered to go back and not only try out the personal branding themselves for the week. And I saw a ton of people doing that on their LinkedIn. I think you told people to post at least once and comment or like at least 3 times. So like very specific recipe. A lot of people tackle that. I did too. So thank you for that. And I think everybody was psyched to go back. So it'll be interesting to see what comes back in terms of success stories.
The other thing too is that we asked who was new to Content Marketing World in the room, and it was like 80% of people hadn't been there before. And so people just really excited to learn and engage and, figure out how to develop their own skills better.
Very cool. How wonderful to be like the very first session on the first day when everyone has lots of energy and they're excited. I love that. And the way you have people start with their own personal brand and then how it scales to the organization. So very practical, multiple levels. Sure.
Yeah. Lots of talk around now, how do we go back and do this for subject matter experts? And we all know, right, as a marketer, you're going to have to do a lot of the work yourself. And so just kind of some of that realization, right? You're going to have to sit down and interview these people and come back to them and say, this is where I think we need to go with your personal brand, and be a little bit prescriptive there. So that's great.
Very
You shared a
good.
lot of great examples too, I think, of how other companies have done it. And I think that's where really light bulbs were going off on some of the examples that you shared, where people are like, oh yeah, we've got a guy, or we've got a woman who can take that and run with that too.
Yeah. It's
Cool.
great.
Well, so all of that happened early, and then obviously there were sessions that happened all week. There was an expo floor. So I'd love to hear what you guys saw and heard and came home with.
Yeah, well, so one of my favorite sessions, day one. First off, I will just give a shout out to Pam Didner. I know she's been on the podcast before, and she's such a joy, such a delight, so much energy. Again, on day one, it was great. Like everybody had energy, and she gave everybody even more. She had a really great talk on go-to-market plans and just some really great tactical tools to help make that efficient. And it's planning time of year, so I think people really walked away with a lot there. And then Dale Bertrand's SEO deep dive. So it was about a 2-hour session, really great deep information. I know Dale's been on the podcast before too. And really just, again, hitting home how we moved away from SEO keywords more to search intent and stepping people through what that looks like. And his big takeaway is start with a verb. And I think that's really helpful to people, especially a lot of marketers who have English or journalism backgrounds, like, oh, start with a verb. So for TREW, I was taking down all these notes of all these things I can't wait to try out on our end. But things like discover agencies specializing in marketing to engineers. And just instead of just looking at one fraction of that, like we would have done years ago for SEO, really building out what do we think somebody's trying to do, or, when they're searching for us, and make sure you've got a verb in front of it. So that was great. And then he had probably 10 different use cases on how we should all be using AI. So I've got my little list here. So one thing that I liked was he talked about using AI to vet content article uniqueness on a scale of 1 to 10. So right now there's so much similar content out there that you want it to basically rate yours on, is it a 5? If it is a 5, you need to go back and rework the content until you're getting it closer to a 9 or 10 every time, so that you make sure that your content really is unique and different. I thought that was a great idea. Create a content scoring rubric. So this I thought was great too, so that every time you write a piece of content, you have your AI score your content on your brand positioning and messaging, on your search intent, to make sure that everything that you're writing is fitting the need. And the last one he had was using Claude to build ROI calculators. And so this is something that we've been challenged with creating for clients for years. Sometimes you have to hire developers. Sometimes you can buy templates, but they're just not right. And so he showed several different examples of using Claude specifically to build these ROI calculators that we know are great calls to action, super fantastic for lead generation. And so that's something that I'm really excited to try out as well. And then Morgan, I know you were sitting right next to me. What did you take away from Dale?
Yeah. So first, wild, because you said it was 2 hours. It was 3 hours, and it flew by. We were going into that, and I was thinking, how in the world are we going to talk about something for 3 hours? I just sort of in today's, where our meetings are shorter, most of the content marketing world presentations throughout the week are 40 minutes tops. It flew by because we're learning all this stuff about SEO. And I love Dale, because every time you ask Dale a question during his presentation, he stops you and he says, what does your business do? And then he answers your question very specific to kind of your business and your company. And it's always just so helpful and practical. But I loved, he had some really great AI tips at the end of just pushing back on this conversation you're having with an AI tool. Even things he was like, here's a list of words that I say, I input this in my prompt. Don't use any of these words. All the time you'll put something into ChatGPT and you get back lots of let's dive into or endeavor. There's some words that sound very characteristic of using an AI tool. And so he was like, here's the list of words. Don't use these. And some different AI recipes, what you can input, the material you need to input in your prompt, and then what you can ask out of it. Very practical use cases, which was awesome. And then for me, and part of it is the sessions that I chose to go to, but storytelling was such a big focus of some of the sessions that I went to. And I didn't even tell you this, Wendy. One of the keynote speakers on Tuesday morning was Ethan Braden, and he's just been hired to brand Texas A&M University. And we were having these discussions the night before at the speakers dinner. He had recently come from Purdue, so moved this summer to A&M and is really like embodying the A&M culture and getting his hands deep into what that looks like, and then how to make this national name for A&M on these things that A&M is rooted in, like pride and legacy and what it means to be part of the university. But he gave this presentation on Tuesday morning and just talked about brand and brand reputation and the way that a brand can make you feel before you interact with it. And it was awesome. So eyes out for things coming from A&M just around their brand marketing in general, because it'll be great. But that was a good one. And on that same line, I went to a presentation by Melissa Hodai and Bean Porter from Grainger. And so Grainger makes industrial equipment. It's not something you would look at and be like, that's going to be so fun to market, right? But they did this video campaign telling stories about the people using their equipment. And so it wasn't necessarily about what the equipment can do, but it was a brand marketing campaign around, the laborers in the field and what all the things that they're doing around this equipment. And it was so cool. And they just, a lot of times I get questions like, well, I push people a lot of times, talk to customers, ask your customers, what are they saying? What are their pain points? And I get a lot of pushback on, well, no, sales won't let me talk to customers, and they just had some really good advice around, then ask sales to record phone calls and let me look at the transcripts if you won't even let me come to the call. So just getting those initial headways in to start to hear your actual customer stories and be able to share those.
I'm curious, did they share the catalyst, like what either the business inspiration behind why they launched a branding campaign to start with? Did they get into that at all?
A little bit, but then I talked to them at lunch, and I think there's this thought of it's an American-made brand, and they were bringing in this culture of don't go overseas and just cheap to get this quick fix of what you need, because this technology stays out in the field or wherever it is for decades. It can, and it has a lot of impact. And so it was around kind of that as a larger message.
Yeah, that's great, because in my mind, I can totally see mapping to that business goal, right?
Yeah.
What are our competitive threats? Where do we need to see revenue growth? What are key pillars that we stand upon, and maybe quality is one or whatever. So cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the last one I wanted to share about was I went to a video session by Content Monster, and it was all about just lowering the barrier to creating videos. And they had done some research and just find that companies can get afraid of video because the only data point they have in their minds about video is, 10 years ago, bringing in a massive video production company to come do this week-long shutdown business because we're filming all this stuff type of video, and it's super expensive and time consuming. And he went through this process where they have clients, they do a lot of on-camera video like this, where it's just, they'll sometimes send people a kit that's like a webcam and a good mic and how to set it up, a light and how to set it up. And then they just really lower the barrier to creating these videos because somebody's got the script. They'll have a coach on screen saying, push your hair down, wipe the sweat off your forehead.
Wow, like a virtual producer.
Yes,
exactly.
A virtual producer, but you get what you need out of it very quickly. And so they had just a bunch of examples of things like that. And we're so comfortable now in a meeting perspective from being on video that it's very acceptable to use that same style of video for marketing. So we have a client right now that we're doing a video for about their company culture and recruiting, and we're doing it all kind of virtually recorded, and it'll be really fun to see the end product. So I was encouraged by that session that is the way to go. Don't be afraid of quick video to get on screen. So
Nice.
yeah.
Lee, any others that stood out to you?
Yeah, so it was actually, it was, I think, second or last one of the whole conference, and it was by Jenny Magic. It's called The Messy Middle on the Path to AI Innovation. So as Morgan talked about, like some themes really came out for the week, like storytelling and being authentic and AI pretty much everywhere. And so what I liked about this session was there's a lot of stress and anxiety around AI, right? And companies and teams are feeling pressure to jump in and learn all these platforms, but they still have all their work they have to do. So there's not like this extra time in the day to go and learn about all these tools and try all these use cases out. People aren't sure on what success looks like. So she had a lot of really good stats about, a couple of themes. She had AI is heading towards an innovation cliff. So she said 47% of workers who are using AI don't know how to use it to be more productive. And so there's just this messy middle. So she talked about this Harvard Business Review, or maybe it was Gartner hype chart back from the 90s, just about how when something gets hyped as much as AI is, you're in this messy middle and everybody's kind of fretting and trying to figure out what to do. And we're just about to all get on board and figure this out. But she did say, something like 73% of organizations in this recent study they did were at or beyond their point of saturation. And so it's leading to burnout. And so as much as we think of these tools for efficiency, we also have to kind of keep our teams top of mind and how they're feeling as we're implementing it. So she's got a book out called Change Fatigue that I think actually came out last year. And so it's got a lot of good tips in there about how to get employees bought in to AI and really talking about what success looks like, not just like, here's a bunch of tools and 90 million use cases, good luck, but really defining what does success look like for our organization, highlighting a few use cases, carving out time from regular business work to make sure that they have ample time to do that and process it so that everybody can feel more bought in, excited, and engaged, and we can kind of get through this messy middle into the promised land of AI. So that was, I thought, really great context in light of how excited all these other sessions were with all these other AI pieces. We have to keep this team mental bandwidth issue in mind as well.
It sounds like she was speaking your love language too, Lee, as the manager of our whole team. And you've felt that. You felt that, okay, I know we need to experiment and push, but yet people are busy, people are stressed. How do we find time for all this? So yeah, that definitely struck a chord, no doubt.
It did. It was validating. I was like, oh, good. This isn't just us. This is everybody. And there's a book, and Jenny is fabulous. And I'm looking forward to diving into that book and learning more.
Very cool. What about the expo? Did you guys make it by any booths? Morgan, did you win another whack-a-mole championship or anything?
I didn't win anything.
What?
And I didn't pick up any random t-shirts that will sit in the back of my drawer. No, Optimizely was the primary sponsor, the big top tier sponsor or whatever. Lots of software companies, lots of new software companies, lots of video production, like video clipping, summarizing types of companies. So kind of the theme there, I would say.
Probably a few podcast companies. I know they're usually there too.
Few podcast companies. Not as many podcast companies though.
Oh,
yeah, I actually don't remember seeing any, but I agree with you, really? Video. And so maybe the video was bridging the podcast divide. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Or they've expanded and now sort of have video as a significant element, but that was definitely a big piece. Yeah. And then your content optimization type of tools like Market News, Optimizely is one of those as well. So gotcha. Okay. Starting to see some of those smaller technologies get bought up. So already. Still keeping their own brands, but getting folded into other softwares, becoming a feature in someone else's software. So kind of interesting. I'm sure we'll continue to see that.
I was going to say, yep, I imagine we're not done with that by any stretch of the imagination. Lee, you mentioned there was a super fun party. So tell me about the conference party.
There was. So Tuesday night, there was a party at a brand new venue in San Diego called Eve. so new that people that were taking Uber and Lyft were getting lost and dropped off kind of across the street, but everybody made it. It was probably 3 stories high, and on the top level where the party was, it was like open air, which again, beautiful San Diego weather. They had fun food stations. It was a Halloween costume contest as well, and the winner of the Halloween costume contest got to meet Issa Rae, who was the keynote speaker on the final day of the conference. So that was exciting. There's a lot of great, there was an Elvis, there was Mabel from Murders in the Building. I mean, people really went all out. It was really creative, really fun. DJ, if you didn't know who Chapel Roan was before this party, you definitely knew afterwards. Lots of great music. So fantastic night.
Super, super cool. Well, I know there's just really no replacing going in person and immersing yourself in an event. So I'm glad you guys both got to do that. And it's a nice precursor to talk about why we're co-hosting the Industrial Marketing Summit, which is coming up February 26th through 28th here in Austin. Registration is open. And Morgan, you're going to be co-presenting a workshop, which I think is pretty similar to the one you just described in the Manufacturing Masterclass. Is that correct?
Yeah, it will be similar. Jamie and I are going to walk people through personal branding and using that as a strategy within your organization. And so it'll be really fun. This session last week made me so excited to do that with just a big group of people really focused on industrial marketing. It'll be good.
Awesome. So everyone that's listening, if you haven't done it so already, go to industrialmarketingsummit.com, and there you can read about our keynote speakers and sessions and all the good stuff there. And other than that, you can find Lee and Morgan on LinkedIn, or of course our website, TREWmarketing.com. Thanks to you both for coming by today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks for joining me today on Content Marketing Engineered. For show notes, including links to resources, visit TREWmarketing.com/podcast. While there, you can subscribe to our blog and our newsletter and order a copy of my book, Content Marketing Engineered. Also, I would love your reviews on this podcast. So please, when you get a chance, subscribe and leave me your review on your favorite podcast subscription platform. Thanks and have a great day.